Welcome dear students. In this video we are going to learn about a very important topic in cell biology, that is cell signaling. As this is the first class of my cell signaling, so in this class I will talk about some basic concept about cell signaling. The first is what is cell signaling and what is the significance of cell signaling in a cell. As we all know that organism can be unicellular or multicellular, but each and every organism must have communications. This is very important to survive in an environment. So cell signaling means communications between cells. They secrete some small molecules we call ligand, and they receive the signals through a molecule called receptor. So in this video I will give you an overview to make a basic concept about cell signaling. In my subsequent classes I will talk about in more details about cell signaling so that you can attend a questions in CSIR NET examinations. So at first I will give you an overview, like there are 10 types of, majorly 10 types of signaling pathway can be. One is called G protein coupled receptor signaling. Okay, I am writing here signaling, G protein coupled receptor signaling. The second is TGF beta molecule signaling. Another is called JAK and STAT. JAK means just another kinase, STAT is associated protein signaling pathway. The fourth is, we can write here, receptor tyrosine kinase RTK pathway, that means receptor tyrosine kinase. The fifth is RAS MAP kinase pathway or signaling pathway. The sixth is WNT pathway. Seventh is hedgehog pathway. 8 is NF kappa beta pathway. 9 is notch pathway, and the 10th last is mTOR pathway, that means mammalian target of rapamycins. So for CSIR preparations you have to understand all these 10 signaling mechanism. Basically these are some signaling mechanism that actually operate in a cell, and they actually very different in signaling in case of their molecules. Now I will give you some basic concept about this cell signaling. The first is modes of cell signaling. How many types of signaling can occur? The first is, so I am not going to give you the details about this all signaling in this class. No, in my subsequent classes I will actually talk about in more details about all this signaling. So the basic concept is here, mode of cell signaling. How many types of cell signaling can occur in a cell? You have to understand this first. The first is, cell signaling can be cell contact dependent. You know that there is T cells. I am giving one example. A T cell can be activated when it associates with another cell called dendritic cell or macrophage, or B cells we call antigen presenting cell. So when T cells associate with another cells, dendritic cells, T cell express some receptor, dendritic cell express some receptor and present antigen. This type of interaction or communication is called cell-cell contact dependent cell signaling. The second mode is called autocrine, in which a cell secretes a molecule that actually received by the cell, that cell. So let's suppose that T cells secrete IL-2 for their proliferation. When get activated, they secrete a cytokine called IL-2. They receive the IL-2 in that cells also. So this is called autocrine manner of cell signaling. The third we can write here paracrine. That means a cell that is not contact dependent but can secrete some ligand molecules and can be received by another cells in a distant way. This is called paracrine. The fourth is, we can write here endocrine. These are all type of mode of cell signaling. Endocrine, we know all this. Endocrine means hormones. So some organs are there like pituitary, thyroid or glands, like pancreas, adrenal glands. So these glands secrete hormones, and the hormones, that ligand, actually go to the destination through the bloodstream. So this is called endocrine. And the last is, we can write here, synaptic transmission. This is another mode of cell signaling, synaptic transmission, in which neurotransmitters are actually released at the end of the neurons. So here neurotransmitter is the ligand, neurotransmitter. Okay, here hormone is there. Here some small molecules can be there, cytokines can be. Okay, cell dependent in case of T cell, it is T cell receptor and MHC molecules. So I'm not writing here. So the basic thing is there are 4 modes of cell signaling can occur. Then the basic concept about cell signaling is 2 things. One is called ligand and this receptor. So let's suppose this is the plasma membrane. This is the cytosol, interior of the cell. Cytosol, it is the exterior of the cell. A receptor look like this. It has a receiving area, it has some protein section and then a transmembrane section, then another sections. We call this outside of this protein is called extracellular domain. Extracellular domain, that means that is the outside of the cell. Then the segment that pass through the membrane we call transmembrane domain. Transmembrane domain. Each and every receptor has this property. And another is called cytosolic domain. Okay. When a ligand bind with a receptor, at first the receptor is inactive in conditions. When ligand bind, so this is the ligand. When ligand bind, the receptors, actually some conformation change can occur, and then it can activate different molecules. I will discuss about in details in this 10 signaling, but I am here writing here only molecules. These molecules can activate different phenomena in a cells. Majorly, we can write here, these molecules can activate enzymes that helps in metabolism. So metabolism, this cell signaling control a very important thing of a cell called metabolism. These molecules can activate transcription factor, so it regulates transcription. This is very important for a cell. Another is that is called cytoskeleton rearrangement. This is another important thing that occurs by cell signaling during cells divisions or when cell try to migrate another site. Cytoskeleton rearrangement occur. Okay, so now I will tell you the very basic idea of receptor. So this is called receptor. So this is actually the play between a receptor and ligand. This is the receiver and this is the signal. So this is receptor. Now the receptor can be divided into 3 broad categories. One is called ligand gated ion channels. In my transport lecture, I have discussed about ligand gated ion channels in more details. So this is another type of receptor that binds with the ligand and gets on and helps in the passage or transport of particular ions. The second type of receptor can be G protein coupled receptor. G protein coupled receptor is a 7 transmembrane protein. Let's suppose this is a plasma membrane. Then this G protein coupled receptor look like this. It has a N-terminal domain outside like this, then transmembrane domain 7 times it passed through the transmembrane. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and they also pass from this side also. Okay, and they also pass through this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it look like this, and it also has a C-terminal cytosolic domain. So this is actually a structure of G protein coupled receptor. The another I can write here enzyme linked. 3 is enzyme linked receptor, specifically kinase. The receptor has a kinase property, that means it can phosphorylate the substrate. So kinase receptor, like in case of JAK-STAT pathway, RTK pathway, RAS MAP kinase pathway, you can see that enzyme linked receptors are present. So these are some basic facts. Now I will give you some example of two ligand molecules, how they work, so you can actually understand how cell signaling occurs in a short way. So I will give you two examples of two molecules. The first is acetylcholine. It is actually a neurotransmitter. So we will learn about a very basic idea of neurotransmitter signaling, that is called acetylcholine. This acetylcholine can bind with different cells, like skeletal muscle can express acetylcholine receptor. Heart muscle, specifically I can say heart pacemaker cell can express acetylcholine receptor. Salivary gland cell can express acetylcholine receptor. Pancreatic acinar cells can express acetylcholine receptor, and there is endothelial cells. Endothelial means those cells that actually line the blood, okay, artery. So in case of skeletal muscles, the type of acetylcholine receptor, so in each and every different cells they express different receptors. Like in case of skeletal muscles, so I am writing here the receptor name. In case of skeletal muscle, the receptor is called nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. In case of heart pacemaker cells, the receptor that binds with the acetylcholine named differently is called muscarinic acetylcholine receptor. There is a difference. This nicotinic acetylcholine receptor is a ligand gated ion channel. So this receptor is a channel. Specifically I mentioned sodium channels. This mode of transport is called ionotropic. So this receptor is called ionotropic because it passes ions. Ionotropic receptor. But in case of muscarinic acid or heart pacemaker cells, this receptor is not actually ligand gated ion channels. This is actually a G-protein coupled receptor. And this actually receptor is called metabotropic. This ionotropic receptor is actually works fast and it actually works slow. And why it is called nicotinic and muscarinic? Because this receptor, this acetylcholine receptor, can bind also nicotinic acid, nicotine actually present in the nicotine, and muscarinic acid means muscarine, a alkaloid, muscarine that is present in fungal alkaloid. So they can also bind with this receptor. Now the result is different. When acetylcholine bind with this receptor, they actually helps in the contraction of the muscle. But when acetylcholine bind with this muscarinic acetylcholine receptor, they actually slow the contraction rate of the muscle, heart muscles, contraction rate. Can you see? It is so different. So I will give you some knowledge about this receptor, like two molecules called alpha bungarotoxin, bungarotoxin, that is present in the snake poison in banded crate snake, and a plant alkaloid called Q-ready that is present in the poison arrow plant. These two molecules can inhibit this receptor. So what happens when a snake bite? The contraction do not occur in the diaphragm, and when there is no contraction, the patient cannot actually take the breath. So it actually, this alpha bungarotoxin Q-ready actually paralyze the diaphragm muscles. So not only the diaphragm but also the muscles, skeletal muscles, but diaphragm muscles also get paralyzed. So the patient cannot actually take the breath. So alpha pancreatoxin and Q-ready actually inhibit this receptor and actually kill the victim by paralyzing, because it helps in the contraction. When it inhibits, it actually paralyzes. And another thing is a molecule called atropine that is actually come from a plant called belladonna. That atropine actually inhibit this molecule, but when atropine inhibit this receptor, the heart muscle or heart rate, contraction rate increases. So these two have different function because they perform differently. But in my GPCR class, I will talk about how muscarinic acid actually helps in the slow rate of contractions. But in this class, I am not going to details. In case of salivary gland, what happens? This is also a GPCR protein. This is also G protein. This is also GPCR protein, and endothelial case it is also GPCR protein. Okay. When acetylcholine binds, they actually secrete saliva, helps in the secretion of saliva. In case of pancreatic acinar cells, when acetylcholine bind, they secrete enzymes that helps in the digestions, because calcium rises in this pathway. And it's called endothelial cells. When acetylcholine bind in endothelial cells, glutamate GABA receptors, they actually helps in the production of nitric oxide, and that nitric oxide actually relax the smooth muscle surrounding the endothelial cells, so that it actually relax the endothelial cells of the blood vessels, so much more blood can flow. So I will also talk about these portions of this GABA receptor signaling in my next class. So this is the example of acetylcholine receptors. Hope this video will help you. Thank you for watching, and always keep learning.